All right, this is the second and significantly shorter part of your notes, so this will finish it up. Even though we've been practicing finding just one side or just one angle, that's really not how your homework problems are going to look. They're going to ask you in your homework to solve the triangle. That means find all the missing angles and find all the missing sides. So let's start looking at this one. There's always going to be one thing that you can find immediately without doing any trig. So in this one, it's z, and the way I can find z is Pythagorean theorem. Because don't I know 2 of the 3 sides in this one? I do, so I can do z squared plus 11 squared equals 21 squared. So that gives me z squared plus 121 equals 21 squared is 441. So now I'm going to subtract 121, and I get z squared equals 320. Now here's the good news. You don't need to simplify the radical on these solving problems because the directions say round to the nearest tenth. So in your calculator, find z to the nearest tenth, and you should get z equals 17.9. All right, now we need to find x or y. And it doesn't matter which one we find first, and we're definitely going to have to use trig at least once. So if I'm going to look at, let's say, x to start with, I need to label 2 of the 3 sides. I can use the 17.9, but I'm going to try and avoid it only because if I made a mistake finding that value, then when I go to find the other things, I'm going to make more mistakes because my initial starting information is wrong. So I'm going to use the 11 and 21. So based off of x, 11 is the opposite side, and 21 is the hypotenuse. So which trig function uses O and H? Well, sine does. So I'm going to have the sine of my angle measure, that's what I circled, x equals opposite 11 over hypotenuse 21. All right, so now in my calculator, I'm going to make 11 over 21 a decimal. So x is going to equal the inverse sine of 0.5238. And the inverse sine of that number to the nearest tenth gives me 31.6. So x equals 31.6. All right, that's settled. Now we need to find y. Well, I'll write this in here, I can do trig again, which would work. But oh my gosh, that's crazy. Why do all that work? All the angles in a triangle add to 180, but in a right triangle, the 2 acute ones add to 90. So I can just do 90 minus 31.6, and I get 58.4 for y. All right, let's try this again. Example 2. So I want to solve. Well, again, one of these things I can find immediately with doing almost no work. Or not almost no work. With, in this case, very little work. But I can always find one thing without doing any trig. And in this case, that would be z. Well, the 2 acute angles in a right triangle add to 90, so I can do 90 minus 41. And 90 minus 41 will give us 49. So z is 49 degrees. That was easy. Don't mess that part up. Now I got to find x or y. Does it matter which one I find first? Not at all. Does it matter which angle I use? Not necessarily. I mean, it's not very hard to find 49, but just in case I made a mistake, I'm going to stick with 41. Okay, so now I need to label. Now remember, when I label, I'm only labeling 2 of my 3 sides. If I label this as hypotenuse and this as adjacent, when I set up my trig function, I'm going to have 2 variables, and that's not going to work. So I want to label the variable I'm trying to find, which is x, and the side that has the number on it, which in this case is the opposite side. And opposite hypotenuse is sine, so I'm going to say the sine of my angle measure, which is 41, equals opposite. Opposite is 32 over hypotenuse, which is x. All right, now in my calculator, I need to make the sine of 41 a decimal to 4 for decimal places, which is going to be 6561 equals 32 over x. I'm going to solve by cross multiplying, so I get 6561x equals 32. Now I'm going to divide, so 32 divided by the decimal gives me 48.8. So x is 48.8. which makes sense. It's a hypotenuse. It's got to be bigger than the other legs. So x is 48.8. All right, from here you have a choice. For y, I could do trig again, or I could do Pythagorean theorem, which is what I'm going to choose to do. So I'm going to do 32 squared plus y squared equals 48.8 squared. Now, this is when I hope that you can start to get decent at your calculator. Okay? We know I'm going to have to take 48.8 and square it, and then subtract 32 squared for that. See if you can put that in your calculator without showing all your work. So I square 48.8, that gives me 238 point something. Just kidding, 2,381 point something. And I'm going to subtract from that, maybe if it's better put in parentheses, 32 squared. And that gives me y squared equals 1357.44. If you're not sure how to put this in your calculator, just write the work out. Don't stress over it. But then I'm going to take the square root of that number, so y equals 36.8. Okay, what I would like you to do now is pause the video, and I would like you to try the last example on your own to make sure that you're understanding this and that you can solve the triangle. Alright, here's the answer I got for number 3. Z was easy to find. I could just subtract it from 90. 90 minus 51 and got 39 here for Z. That wasn't bad. Then I chose to do, this time I did trig twice. You can do trig twice, you can do trig once, and then Pythagorean theorem once. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. Now when you round, you may get something slightly different, but overall you're going to get the same thing. Alright, now notice that I rounded to the nearest hundredth on this, and we're going to round to the nearest tenth this time. So this is going to be 0.86, which would be just 0.9. And then over here, we got 0.62. That's going to be still at 20.1 if you round to the nearest tenth. That'll work there. Okay, so you can see how we do that. Hopefully you're okay. This trig stuff is not on your quiz. The quiz is radicals. There's 4 questions of radicals, and then 14 questions of 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90, and Pythagorean theorem mixed up. There's no trig on the quiz. Trig is only on the test. After the quiz next class, we'll go over this and practice more and then do some trig word problems.